So at Church in the Wild, we have 4 basic steps that we are trying to help people go in their faith and their walk with God. The first step is that they're welcome. They're welcome. This is something that we believe for everyone. Everyone is welcome to explore and experience God here at Church in the Wild. We believe that everyone should have the opportunity to hear about God. And this can be at times scary for some people to hear and be like, oh my goodness, you guys, you're trying to do this. You're trying to talk to people about Jesus. You want this. You're trying to do this. It can be scary. It requires faith to walk into the door of a church, and we understand that. This is why our church tries to be as welcoming as we can possibly be, because I understand that it is scary to step foot in a church not knowing what's about to happen, what's going to take place, what's going to be said. I mean, is someone going to hand me a snake? Like, what's going on? I don't know. And I've been in all kinds of churches. I understand that it can be scary to visit a church. I've been at churches where I got yelled at simply for having blonde hair. Like, I was sitting there one time, and this guy's like, you down there with the blonde hair. I'm like, I did not choose to be born this way. This is just the hair on my head. I understand it can be scary. But then God calls people to walk with him, to walk with him. And he says, hey, don't just stand at the foot of the mountain. Come up with me and experience who I am. This requires faith. This is scary. It is scary to say, you know what? I'm going to put my trust in Jesus Christ, and I'm going to walk with him daily. That requires faith, and it's scary. It requires faith to say, you know what? Not only have I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior and made it a private thing between he and I, but now it's going to be a public thing, and I'm publicly going to get baptized to show the world around me that I'm a follower of him. That requires faith. That is scary. But then God says, hey, bring the warrior with you. Bring the warrior. And there comes a point in our Christian life when we go from just being welcomed by God and loved by God to walking with God to then being a warrior for God. To being someone who is willing to work and be someone who's willing to say, hey, I will invest in people. I will care about people. I will call on people. I will invite people. I will work. I will be a warrior for him. That's scary. It's scary. You know, have you ever done this? I did this at the gym a little while ago. So the gym a little while ago, there's a guy who I don't think I've ever met in my life. I may be wrong. One of the two of us is wrong on this. It's probably me. But he and I were talking, and I walked up, and I said, hey, man, I'm Jason. It's good to meet you. And he said, yeah, man, we've met a whole bunch of times before. And I was like, oh, man. That's scary to do. Isn't that embarrassing? Like, hey. He's like, yeah, we're best friends, basically. Oh, I'm Jason. Good to meet you, best friend. You know, spiritually, it's kind of scary to be someone who says, hey, let me tell you about Jesus. But can I tell you something? A year ago today, on the day, I invited this girl down here in the front row to come to Church in the Wild at a Starbucks. It's scary. And sometimes it's amazing. But then God says, hey, I got one more step for you. And it's wild. It's wild, but it's worth it. Come up to the top of the mountain alone with me and hear what I have to say to you. Come up here and spend time with me and let me tell you what I have to say. And let me work with you. You know what happens when you become wild? When we become the church in the wild, we stop waiting for people to text us and we start texting them. We stop waiting, boy, I hope Jason put something together for the guys. And what we do is, hey, I'm doing this, come with me. Well, I'd love for this to happen, and you start making it happen. I hope someone will pray for me, and you start saying, I'm going to pray for you. When you become wild, it is this journey. It is terrifying, and it's amazing. It's incredible. When we started Church in the Wild, I was absolutely terrified. Like, God, I don't know. But let me tell you just a couple of stories. So a while ago, last fall, a guy walks into our church. He starts attending our church. He's here for a while. He gets baptized. Now, if you remember the day, if you were here last year, we were doing our Monster series, and there was like purple blinky lights up here, and no one could pay attention to what was going on during the sermon because it was like blinking, like all behind me, right? And we were doing worship while we were baptizing, and we baptized this guy. We bring him up out of the water. We have this awesome picture. We're hugging. He's excited. We baptized another family that day, and if you remember that day, the lady, like we baptized her, we dunked her, and I could hear her yelling under the water. I thought she was scared, so I was like trying to bring her up, but she was so excited that when I brought her up, she like leapt to her feet and was like, whoa! And we have a picture where water's flying everywhere, and I'm just getting doused, and I'm loving it. I'm like, yeah, it's amazing. We baptized him. Dylan is handsome, strong, he works hard, he's studious, he's gracious, he's kind. If you're single and you're a girl and you're not dating him, you should be, okay? You should be. I mean, the guy's incredible. He sits up front. What else can you want? He's wild. What else can you want? He's a wild man. And Dylan brought his friend John. Y'all like donuts? Everybody like donuts? John brought the donuts today. And John brought Katie, who had never been to church in her life before walking in here. And that girl told me her testimony. We were sitting in BJ's in Polaris, and she started telling me about how she accepted Jesus and how this peace came into her life. And I was getting like chills in BJ's, not because it was cold. I was just like, man, this is wild, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Let me tell you another story. When we started, it's the famous story. We literally had no clue at all. If you think we don't know what we're doing now, we really didn't know it back then. We had a TV on a ladder, and we were handing out papers to songs that were the wrong songs. And we had a guy who was playing the guitar. And that's what he was doing. He was playing the guitar, loving life. And do you know that Cam is now our worship leader? And he works at Church in the Wild, and this worship is a result of what Cam has put in and poured into people. So the people up here are being poured into by Cam, and they're singing and they're worshiping, and Brandon's down here worshiping, and Curtis is here worshiping, and Logan and Rajiv and Nick Bernacki, and they are being poured into by someone who his first couple of weeks was just playing a guitar. It's wild when you start trying to reach people for Jesus. But man, it is so worth it. Moses has to face every fear and walk to the top of this mountain. Alone. Can I bring my warrior? Nah, you're the leader. You got to go to the top alone. Can I bring my elders? No. I let them eat and drink with you. That's cool. They get to walk with you and they got to walk with God. But I got a plan for you, and it's wild. But it's worth it. He experiences God like no one else gets to experience God. He has this faith to say, God, whatever you want. And God says, come on this journey with me. Okay, can I bring the elders? Yeah, bring them. Okay. All right, elders, stop there. Bring your warrior. Okay. All right, yeah, come on up. Okay. Okay, what now? Warrior. And I just want you to come up. And by the way, the mountain's on fire. So just come on up. It doesn't make sense. It's scary. It's terrifying to attempt to do great things for God. But it's so worth it. It's so worth it. It's so worth it. Each new step has new fears and new obstacles, but they also have new blessings and new opportunities. Each time God calls you a little bit further into your walk with him, yeah, it's scary, but it has new blessings. To watch Cam grow as a leader is like the greatest spiritual high.